screen. Here we are. All right. So welcome to our Arts in the Parks. Oh my God, I've been scrolling everywhere. Arts in the Parks Zoom session with Tori today. So at the beginning of each session, we are going over our general consent statement. So as a visible disclosure, we'd like to inform any participants that any and all of the Zoom series is and will be recorded. The purpose of this is to provide the Zoom series to those who participated or missed out in the session. It is also provided the information for participants to refer back to. In addition to the visible disclosure, this statement will be orally stated at the beginning of each Zoom series, like I am right now. And I'm going to stop sharing. And now, bring it on over to Tori.
Nice. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So my hope is that we get a good sense of how Samo has brought arts and parks to our park. National Park Service in every park has been doing arts and parks for 100 years in some fashion or another. And every park is individual, has different ways, it goes the traditional way. And we have about 5 or 6 different programs at Samo that are related to arts and parks. So I wanted to spend most of the time on Samo. It's a lot of pictures, and I'm happy to be interrupted if you want to interrupt as I go. So really, there's one video that I was interested in everybody seeing, and I wanted to watch it as a group. It's 4 minutes, but it was not going to work once I logged on and tried. So I will send you that link. And it's 4 minutes, it's short. It talks about the evolution of arts and parks in the 100 years that it's been important for the National Park Service, and then kind of the modern take on that. Okay, so Leigh, I'm trying to go to the next slide. I'm hitting my down arrow, nothing's happening. Do I hit the?
You just do what your normal PowerPoint things do, so whether that's the next arrow or the space bar, unless your PowerPoint is frozen.
Okay, it might be frozen.
Like technical difficulties.
Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and try again. Okay, I wonder if when I go to the main screen, if it's having challenges. Okay, it's coming. All right, so this is the video that I'd like you guys to see. We won't watch it together, but we'll send the link when we send the link to this video as well. So the Samo has had this many different programs related to arts, and we will go through each one of them, mostly in photos again. The Artist in Residence program, Samo has partnerships with LAUSD through an arts organization where we have an exhibit up right now that nobody can see. Having installations at Peter Strauss Ranch, doing performance art. And then Gateway to Nature is a center right next door to the downtown LA office, and we have art exhibits in that space. And then during the NPS's centennial, there were NEA grants, National Endowment for the Arts grants, that we worked on as well. So these are all different ways that Samo is participating in arts and parks. For our Artist in Residence program, I won't read all this, but basically our goal with Samo was to connect artists that work with youth in youth serving organizations and urban centers and connect them with Samo and rangers. And so the requirements for an artist to be selected as an artist in residence was that we're working with the same group of youth for a 2 to 5 month period, a minimum of 24 hours of studio time with those youth, that there are 3 full day trips into nature, and that they have a culminating event show performance that's open to the public. So those were the minimum requirements in order to get the funding. And again, so the funding came through Samo Fund. So thank you, Samo Fund. So we could have an incentive for the artists to take on this additional work. So in the years that it ran, in the 5 years. Film, photography, stop motion animation, I didn't even know what that was, comic book drawing, sound art, poetry, all these that are listed here, like super cool work. Artists were doing great things with their youth. So youth organizations, sorry, doubled that. Some of the youth organizations that we worked with, I'm not highlighting the artists that we selected because that wasn't as the important piece to me. The important piece was where the youth were coming from, if they were traditionally in park poor neighborhoods where they didn't have access to nature as much as other communities where they do have lots of nature around them. So these are some of the organizations that the artist worked through in order to get our grant and bring the youth out. So a couple images, one group sitting there actually working on a sketchbook. They did sketchbook and poetry. This group was our comic book drawing class, and this was one of their trips. Sometimes the trips were just about the trip and enjoying nature, and then when they were back in the studio, they implemented what they learned or their experience back in their studio time, and sometimes their trips were about creating during their trip. This is a part of the comic book drawing class at their public presentation in a comic book shop, and showing their pieces, their books. This group of youth was creating self-portraits, and they were all self-portraits of them in nature. So they would take what they learned and saw from their trips and put those aspects in their self-portrait around them, whether it was a bird or a tree or mountains or whatever inspired them. This group of youth did multimedia work. It was awesome. They did 5 different projects. They worked all summer long, and they got to actually do boogie boarding with lifeguards in Malibu at Leo Creo. So that was awesome. And this is the visit at the visitor center. We had a culminating event showing all the pieces. So this is one artist and her piece. Another artist teaching at Malibu Creek State Park, film. So it was actually super fun to go, I was looking through all the pictures and 5 years of super cool projects related to the Artist in Residence program. So those are, some highlights from that program. So this one is the Samo LAUSD IFC partnership. So for 2 years in a row, we partnered with an organization that really, their whole mission is to connect parks to their school districts, and the parks come up with the theme, and the students then create art around that theme. So this was our theme. Well, we worked a lot to make the wording kid-friendly and to really get at the theme. So I'm gonna read it as if I'm reading it to kids, as I would go into their classrooms, go through a presentation with them, show them hands-on stuff, and go through this theme. If you're a high schooler, it would be more in depth about equal access to nature. And if you were, a 5th grader, it would be a little less in depth about land equality and all that. So you are part owner of millions of acres of land, really? Yes, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, Joshua Tree, but also within an hour of home is Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, with 49 places for you and your family to park a car and head off on your adventure. Adventures in nature are healthy for your body and mind, full of exploration, fresh air, unbelievable views, stargazing, hiking, camping, mountain biking, fort building, tree climbing, picnicking, bug and bird watching, swimming, jumping, and laughing. You can take it easy or challenge your body and mind to do new things and extend your comfort zone. All right, so really we were trying to have one message that inspired youth to really get out into nature. Many of these youth got to go on field trips, but not all of the classrooms did. If you go onto the organization, International Fiber Collective, they have a Flickr page. They have uploaded every single piece of art that was submitted. Some of these pieces were for youth working on one piece where, they would say, well, I want this aspect in it, I want this aspect in it. And so they would have to share the canvas. The canvases are all 3 feet by 3 feet, and there's about 70, I think, up at the visitor center right now. And these are the ones that are currently up. Each of the pieces have, these details next to them. And so when you're reading through the pieces, sometimes it's super inspirational. Sometimes it just makes you laugh, but it gives you a sense of which schools participated, the materials used and all of that. All right, so for our Peter Strauss Ranch installations, I don't know how many people got to see all the installations, and not everybody loved every installation that was out there. But when artists were submitting for selection, they knew that their pieces must be able to last from May through September. There must be a public engagement component during those months. The piece must not be controversial, so politically, mostly. That the pieces could be damaged or stolen. And we thought that for sure they would be, and they never were. And I think we ran it for 4 years. And then the pieces could be located in all these different areas: the pool, the terrace hillside, the lawn, the aviary, all of those spaces. So before I show some images of ones that were put in, can I get a raise of hands, either physically on your screen, but it would be easier for me to see if you just add that in. I guess I can't see it. Lay, will you let me know how many people had ever seen any of the installations at Peter Strauss Ranch?
Yes, so far I see only one hand raised.
Okay, all right. Okay, so these pictures might be fun. So one of our goals with the installations at Peter Strauss was that it might bring new audiences. So audiences that really like art, but they haven't been out to Santa Monica Mountains before. So this might be a draw for them, might like installations, just a new draw to a site. And Peter Strauss is heavily used by neighbors, but not typically outside of concert dates, heavily visited by others. So we thought it's a great site because of its odd spaces to lend itself to installations. We call this some people call this the Hobbit House, but this is carpet. So paintings on carpet put over the windows. These were hung along the 1 mile loop trail. Artists actually didn't often want to have work on the 1 mile loop trail, but I really wanted there to be a draw to actually hike the trail. So when you would arrive at Peter Strauss, there were maps that you could pull out of Peter Strauss, indicating where each of the pieces were, and the artist descriptions of each piece. So they could go out and walk to each and every piece. And know what the descriptions were. All right. This was on the main lawn. This was a little shelter that we were worried about because we were worried that the community or visitors might think that it's, is it going to look welcoming as a homeless encampment space? But this piece got the most social media attention. Because when you went inside, the artist had asked engaging questions, pretty thought-provoking stuff. Most of the pieces are all bullet, target pieces. So there are bullet holes through all of them. So the sun would shine through just amazingly. This one. Here's another one. This is actually a neighbor of Peter Strauss, or her piece. Okay, so those were some of the many installations. We would have 6 installations each year. So this is over about a 4-year period. So this is just showing just some of them. Performance art was something we wanted to try and work with. How do we bring, other than concerts, to our park? What other types of performances could we bring? So we had a modern dance performance in the pool. They started down the terrace hillside and did the dance down and then into the pool, which was pretty incredible. And then in the center of the pool at Peter Strauss, they had this fire, and then they started burning some artwork that they created in the fire. with really great, interesting music. This band works at Cal Arts, the college Cal Arts, and with the partnership program that brings youth from urban centers every Saturday for full day sessions for an entire year. And he does funky sound stuff. So he went to Peter Strauss one day before a concert and after a concert to do his funky sound stuff while you're just there. It was really interesting. It wasn't music, it was sound art. All right, and then Gateway to Nature is a space that's next door to the downtown LA office, Samo's downtown LA office. And that space started as a WNPA store. And then when the government shutdown happened, the store had to close. But the city of LA, which runs, kind of ran that space, still thought there was value in having Gateway to Nature there. So turned it into basically a museum. So the city runs about 8 museums at El Pueblo National Monument, and Gateway to Nature is one of those sites now. And so it's a partnership between us, Forest Service, and the city of LA. And our hope and dream is that every museum guide, if somebody walks in the door and says, oh, I love fishing, is there anywhere I can do that? Or, if I just like to sit on rocks and think, where could I go for that? That those people could direct anybody who walks in the door to a spot that is theirs, that would inspire them. I don't think we've gotten there yet. What we're working on and what the city finds valuable is having rotating exhibits. And so we're on our 3rd exhibit right now, Breaking Barriers. So of course it was open when the shutdown happened. So now it's closed and we don't have the next exhibit. But it's an exhibit honoring African American Heritage Month and National Women's History Month. And we, in the space, we highlighted Samo women and all their awesome fields with great write-ups next to their images. So these are huge boards of each person you see on the bottom and kind of their career. And then they also did the same with National Park Service sites that celebrate the African American struggle and story. So that's the current exhibit up. And then for our centennial, the National Endowment for the Arts Centennial Grant, their goal was, it was NEA's 50th anniversary, it was National Park Service 100th anniversary, and they wanted to jointly celebrate this by creating funding for artists around the theme of Imagine Your Parks. And so the work didn't have to even be done in the parks, but you did have to partner with the park. So the year before our centennial, all sorts of artists were approaching us like, oh, I want to do this. Would you guys support that? And so we had lots of letters of support to artists, and then only one was selected in the LA area. It was LA County, it was an LA County submission. Their arts division submitted to work with Camp 13 inmates around fire abatement. And so the artist on the left, you'll see that all of the women from Camp 13 that participated are on this board. Their first names are on this piece of wood. And then she created little suitcases. And each of these suitcases is about a learning opportunity. And the women gave a lot of input on that. So she created about 10 suitcases. Some of them were about fire and what the women's role is. So the Camp 13 women all work on fire and fire abatement and on fires. So they each have firefighting positions. And so some of the suitcases are related to what their positions are and what their tools are. The one on the top right, we worked with Kathy Schoonmaker with Nature Neighbors, and it's about making sure that your home is nature neighbor friendly. And so actually one of those is an owl box. One of those is a bat box, and you can actually remove them from the suitcase and open them. So they're each supposed to be able to be hands-on and used for educational purposes. So each of these suitcases, which she calls valises, were in the center. So those are each and every one of the programs. I would like to go back to the page that shares them all, and then you can ask questions about any and all of them. All of these programs have been running since 2012, not all of them, but any one of them from 2012 to 2019, and we have run out of funding for all of them at this point. So that would be awesome if that changed, but we were super grateful for Samo Fund for managing, providing funds so we could bring youth out, families out that don't typically come out, but did so because of, you know, arts programs.
Hey, Tori.
Yeah.
In the chat, Mel did ask, will the installations be done at Peter Strauss this year? But you kind of already answered that.
Yeah, so we did run out of funding for that program. The artists were given about $1,500 each time, and it mostly was only enough to cover for their supplies in most cases. And so that's gone. I actually think it would be fabulous, even though it's a burn site and it's having its challenges, it actually creates a really great opportunity, I think, to lend itself to installations. And even if the theme was around, you know, fire, I think artists could really create powerful stuff with that theme.
Ori, this is Mel. So you say you're out of money for all these different programs. Will there be new money next year, or maybe later in the year, or?
I don't know, Sarah, if you want to respond to that. I know that arts, funding for arts for all of NPS sites throughout NPS is kind of getting a backseat to other things right now. Do you want to answer that in a different way, Sarah?
No, you're kind of on the mark. We did want to put in for more art in the park. We basically want to renew our Art in the Park agreement with Samo Fund, but the Washington level was not accepting those kind of task agreements or those agreements at this time, because like Tori said, the focus has shifted to other things at this time. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that in the future, there won't be a change in the stance. It's just at this time, it's not a focus for the parks.
And we have had private donations as well, like the Annenberg Foundation gave Samo Fund one year's worth of funding for the Artists in Residence program. So that, you know, if that ever came through again, I think we'd be excited about using it.
I think Steve asked this question a couple of weeks ago. The artwork that was put up in the visitor center by LAUSD school kids. What's the plan for that? Because we closed down pretty much straight after that went up. So as you said,
Yeah.
no one's had a chance to see it. What's the
So
plan?
I just asked the organization if we could keep it without an end date. Typically, you know, we give the organization money to coordinate this and send out the supplies and coordinate with all the teachers. And the exhibit time, whatever you say it is set. And if you want it longer than that, then you actually pay a fee to do that. She said that because of this, we can have them through the summer. So I'm hopeful that we get to open and students get to go and see their pieces. The intent was that we would have a big arts festival and an opening exhibition date with an arts festival combined. So they came out with their classes or their families or their teachers to see their pieces up at the visitor center, but then also there is an arts festival happening for them when they arrived. But all of that, was canceled. Anything else on any of these?
So I guess that begs the question, and maybe this is for Sarah. But do we have any idea when the visitor center may reopen?
Yeah, we are really going off of the state and county guidelines. And at this point, we're just starting to enter phase 2. There are 4 different phases of opening. Right now, the state is working with different counties, and certain businesses are starting to be allowed to be open again. But at this time, we have not been given permission to open government buildings, and we're still at stay-at-home orders in LA County, and I'm not 100% sure about Ventura County. I think we're still at stay-at-home orders in Ventura County as well. And so until that's lifted and things start to change, we probably won't be opening the visitor center. And even when we open, it really is going to be kind of a slow process, getting people back out into the parks, volunteers getting back out to working. And we don't know what the timeline is. We're hearing all sorts of things about second waves of coronavirus and when that may happen. And if that happens, we may have to start pulling back on certain things. So that was a very long answer.
That's okay, I understand.
Yeah, we just don't know at this time.
I mean, is there any sort of plan or information from MPS about which phase we'd be in or which stage? Obviously, we're in phase 2 at the moment and we're not opening. Would the plan to be open in phase 3, or would we have to wait until phase 4?
Well, I can tell you that at the Washington level, they have National Park Service is one of the few agencies that has put together a reopening plan, and they have submitted it for review. However, they're waiting for other agencies to come up with reopening plans so that we can kind of do it in unison and work together collaboratively. That hasn't happened. As of Tuesday, I heard that the National Park Service has submitted their plan, but there hasn't been any feedback or guidance based on that plan yet.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
Has there been any thought or budget for potentially making physical changes at the visitor centers, like screens or anything like that?
As you know, we haven't been open for business for a while. And our budget, what we thought we were going to be spending money on, obviously is different than what is happening. I don't know what the plan is as far as screens and things like that. We are We are looking at a reopening plan, and I know David is certainly working on that. And safety is the biggest thing that we're looking at as far as bringing employees and then volunteers back into workspaces. But I don't know if there has been a specific budget looking at putting up like plexiglass screens and things like that that you see at grocery stores.
Those 6 programs on the art, I didn't realize you had such a wide scope. That's really interesting. And really a wonderful way to reach different people, the youth and as well as adults, about the aspects of the park. And when things open back up and you do the programs again, you know, allowing funding, I'd like to see some of the others that I wasn't familiar with. It's really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Tori's done an amazing job with arts in the park. And I know she's collaborated with so many different partners. She has been the driving force at Santa Monica Mountains for arts in the park. And I just really commend her thinking outside the box and her collaboration with so many different agencies and schools and keeping this going. So without her, a lot of this would not have happened. So
Thanks, Sarah. And I would say, thanks. I'm not an artist, and I appreciate, but I felt pretty intimidated working with some of these artists and their ideas, and can we do that? And will it put a hole in the ground in a place we can't have a hole? You know, just every little detail, everything was new to me. But the impact that it has on, you know, the youth specifically, and the new audiences that I would see that it would bring out was just super special and amazing. And especially after you hear that a program has ended and then those youth are now feeling confident in a space that they want to convince their families to just go on their own time. And so that has been super amazing too. Thanks, Sarah.
I have a question. Is there any interest beyond my own personal, and a lot of people that I know would love to see Shyla Braden's photo contest come back? Assuming that we're all back to normal and we don't have all these other issues going on, is there any support for that? Because it was wildly popular. The last one that she held had over 300 entries. Wow. And it gets people in the parks. It's tied into art and nature and everything. It was what brought me into volunteering actually 6 years ago. And I've had a lot of my photographer friends ask me, when are you going to bring that back? Because it was really something to get people out in the parks.
I'm game. I'm up for it.
Sounds like a good.
I'd love to do that. I imagine it doesn't require funding, so that's probably awesome.
It wasn't much. You know, there were some ribbons and, you know, whatever.
We can do that.
You know, logistical, you know, sort of things, getting the boards put up and that sort of thing. But I would be more than happy to be involved in that, not as a participant, but as a, you know, getting stuff done kind of person.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
That sounds like
I just like to, you know, put that thought in people's heads.
Yeah. Cool. I can chat with Sarah about it and we can connect.
That was a good idea.
Yeah. So if you have ideas that don't require money, share them. Email me. I know that lots of artists would actually do installations for free.
It's funny you mentioned that, Tori. I was going to ask a question about until like funding comes back and things get back to normal, so you can run the programs, you know, the way designed, but the way they were designed. But I was wondering if, approaching, you know, just various artists out there that would maybe, you know, like I said, do something for free. You know, maybe like you were showing at Peter Strauss Ranch. You know, put in some I mean,
Yeah.
sure, some of them, could sell their normal art for a lot of money, but, just do something cheaply, maybe with found objects, that type of thing,
Maybe like let them have some of their stuff up on display there for a certain amount of time, then have it maybe the option of some, if anyone was interested in buying the piece after it was on display or something, as like part of the funding for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, you guys. I'm glad you liked it. We'll see. Cool. If there's nothing else, is it too early to close? Sorry, it went by fast.
It did go by fast. Yeah, no, if there aren't any other questions for Tori, or if there are, you can always reach out to her. But thank you so much, Tori, for sharing that. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the link for that video, that would be great, because I think that would be a really cool video to watch too. I myself didn't realize that it's been 100 years, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think 100 Years of Arts and Parks came out at the centennial year, because that was what made people believe what, oh, there really are trees that big? Wait, you got to draw that for me. What is it? So yeah, cool.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Well, thank
You know
you,
what?
Tori.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tori.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.